the lost book of Adam and Eve was found and reveals a terrible secret. In the heart of ancient deserts, beneath sands untouched by time, a manuscript was found, worn by centuries, sealed by mystery, a forgotten book, a sacred scroll hidden from kings, concealed from councils and lost to the generations. Its contents? A terrible secret that not even time could bury. This is not a fable. It is not a myth whispered by wandering tribes. This is the voice of Adam himself, the first man, echoing through the void of centuries. It is the voice of grief, of longing, and of a truth that was removed from our eyes. Scroll before you dive deep into this revelation. Bell subscribe to the channel, Reflexo Diaria, for more forbidden truths. Thumbs up like this video and leave a comment. Your support spreads light. Now, let us return to the garden. Not the paradise you were taught, but the Eden from which terror was born. There are books so ancient, so mysterious, that even time itself seemed to swallow them. For centuries, the true story of the beginning, the raw, painful, and majestic truth of what happened after Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden, was hidden away, buried under the sands of forgotten history. But now, fragments of a lost manuscript, known as the Book of Adam and Eve, have emerged, and with it, a secret so terrifying, so soul-stirring, that it shakes the very foundations of everything we thought we knew about the fall of man. Before we dive into this powerful revelation, we want to welcome you to our channel, Daily Reflection. If this story grips you like it has gripped us, please subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts below. Share this video with someone who needs to know what has been hidden in the shadows for so long. These truths are not just historical, they are spiritual. They might just change the way you see the world. Now, let's go back to the beginning. After their expulsion from Eden, Adam and Eve did not simply vanish into a barren world. The canonical Bible gives us glimpses: sorrow, sweat, pain in childbirth, labor in the soil. But the apocryphal writings open a door into their torment, their fears, and the divine mysteries they encountered. The first book of Adam and Eve, also called the conflict of Adam and Eve with Satan, chronicles in detail their exile, and more chillingly, Satan's relentless pursuit of their destruction. According to this text, Adam and Eve didn't merely leave a garden. They left the literal presence of God, stepping into a realm where the ground was dead, the air was cold, and spiritual warfare raged around them. The light of Eden was replaced by terrifying darkness. Every night, they wept bitterly, believing the sun would never rise again, a haunting metaphor for the darkness that fell upon humanity itself. The book speaks of Satan appearing in various forms: a dazzling angel light, a beast, a serpent, doing all he could deceive, to kill, to twist the hearts of the first humans. He poisoned their food, lured them with illusions, and whispered lies that sounded like promises. Why? Because he knew that through them, salvation would one day come. He wanted to end the line before it began. And then, the terrible secret. One passage reveals that Adam, in desperation and shame, threw himself from a mountain, hoping to end his life. Eve, overwhelmed by guilt, did the same. Both survived not by chance, but by divine intervention. This was the first recorded act of despair. Suicide, grief, mental agony. The earliest ancestors of mankind were not immune. In this, we see a foreshadowing of the battles every soul would one day face. The war within. But God did not abandon them. Angels were sent to guide them. God gave them visions of the future, of the coming of the Messiah, of the redemption that would be born through their lineage. Yet even this promise did not come without a cost. They were shown the cruelty of Cain. They were shown the flood. They were shown the bloodline of giants, the Nephilim, that would arise from corrupted seed, mixing human and fallen angelic blood. Yes, the book of Adam and Eve connects directly to other apocryphal texts like the book of Enoch, where it's revealed that some of the fallen angels took human wives and gave birth to monstrous offspring, bringing violence and chaos upon the earth. It's in this context that we begin to understand a terrible secret: that evil, once released, could not be undone by man. That sin, once born, would multiply until only divine blood could cleanse it. Adam was shown visions, bloody altars, a crown of thorns, a suffering Redeemer, and he wept, not fully understanding. He asked, "Will my children ever return to the garden?" And the answer was both beautiful and tragic. Yes, but not as you did. They will return through death, through sacrifice, through one who shall crush the head of the serpent. These revelations didn't just terrify Adam. They crushed him, for in the moment he ate the fruit, he didn't know the full weight of what he had done. And now, the truth that all of humanity would suffer rested on his shoulders like a mountain of fire. The book of Adam and Eve also mentions a mysterious cave. The Cave of Treasures, a place where the patriarchs would hide sacred relics, waiting for fulfillment of God's plan. This cave, buried somewhere on earth, is said to contain objects from Eden itself: the garment of skin, the rod of authority, and even the oil that would one day anoint the Messiah. Legend says the cave still exists, but God has hidden it until the appointed time. The pain of Eve is also detailed with gut-wrenching intensity. She speaks of the loneliness of motherhood, the sting of her son's rivalry, the fear of death, and the echo of Eden's joy that still haunts her dreams. She cries out to God, asking if she will ever again walk with him. And in a whisper, God promises, "You will walk with me, but not now. There is a price." And this is a horror in the beauty of the Lost Book. It paints a picture not just of divine punishment, but of divine patience, of a God who allowed pain, because pain would lead to purpose, of a creator who allowed death, because death would lead to resurrection, and of a father who did not shield his children from the consequences of their rebellion, but walked with them through it slowly, painfully, toward redemption. The Lost Book doesn't contradict the Bible, it deepens it. It fills the silence between the verses. It reveals that the story was never just about forbidden fruit, but about a cosmic war, a broken love, and a terrifying secret that only the blood of the Lamb could cleanse. And we've only just begun. As Adam and Eve struggled to adjust to a world of thorns and shadows, the lost writings describe how every breath they took was heavy with regret. The earth itself seemed to mourn with them. No longer vibrant and full of life, creation bore the curse of their fall. Trees wept sap, rivers trembled, animals either feared or attacked. Nothing was as it once was. Yet amidst this despair, the ancient writings record divine visitations, moments when the heavens briefly opened to remind them that hope was not completely lost. In the book of Adam and Eve, an angel named Michael was often dispatched by God to comfort and instruct the fallen pair. He told them that their suffering had purpose, that every tear would become a river of testimony for future generations, that their perseverance would become the seed of salvation. But Satan, in his rage, did not rest. He appeared to Adam and Eve multiple times, each time with a new deception. In one account, he pretended to be an angel of light, telling Adam that God had changed his mind, that they were allowed back into Eden. When Adam believed him and approached the mountain of the garden, a violent wind threw him down. His bones were broken. Eve wailed in terror, and Satan laughed. This encounter was more than just a cruel trick. It was symbolic. It showed that deception often comes dressed in divine light, that lies are most dangerous when they sound like truth. From that moment on, Adam began to pray more earnestly, asking God for discernment. The ancient text also mentions a sacred promise made by God to Adam, that after 5,500 years, the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. This prophecy, hidden in the apocryphal scrolls, mirrors the verse found in Genesis 3, verse 15. But here, it is given with more detail. Adam was shown that this seed would not be a warrior with a sword, but a suffering servant, one who would be betrayed, beaten, crucified. Adam didn't understand fully. How could salvation come through pain? Why would the Son of God die for what he had done? These were questions even the angels longed to understand. But God, in his wisdom, had hidden the full plan from both man and spirit. The writings also speak of a strange fast. After realizing the gravity of their sin, Adam and Eve committed themselves to a 40-day fast. They stood waist-deep in the waters of a river by day, and neck-deep in the Jordan by night. Their goal, to purify themselves, to beg God to return them to Eden. But their fast was interrupted by Satan, who appeared to Eve as a shining being, urging her to eat just once more. She almost did, but Adam, strengthened by his suffering, rebuked the being and cried out to God. Lightning split the skies, and Satan was once again cast away. The lesson was clear. Fasting and prayer could not undo the fall, but they could restore connection. Even in their broken state, Adam and Eve were learning what it meant to seek God, not through innocence, but through repentance. The second part of the manuscript then transitions to the story of Cain and Abel, a tragedy born from the soil of jealousy. Cain, the firstborn, bore the mark of pride. Abel, gentle and reverent, offered the best of his flock. When God favored Abel's offering, the bitterness in Cain's heart grew into hatred. The lost book gives haunting details. That Cain lured Abel into the wilderness under the pretense of worship, then struck him with a stone until his blood cried out from the ground. The moment Abel died, the earth trembled, and Adam, sensing something was terribly wrong, ran to the field. He found his son lying lifeless, his eyes still open, his blood seeping into the dust. Adam wept so violently that the angels of heaven were said to have joined in mourning. Eve, upon hearing the news, tore her garments and fell to the earth, crying, "My son, my child, I bore you with pain, and now you return to me in death." It is in this moment that the manuscript reveals another divine truth, that Abel's soul was not lost. God received him, and from that moment onward, the concept of resurrection began to unfold. Though Adam and Eve would bury their son with trembling hands, they were comforted by a voice from heaven. He is not gone. He awaits the day of judgment, and he shall rise. This belief that the dead would rise began not in the time of Christ, but in the very dawn of humanity. It was whispered in Eden's aftermath, promise of first parents, and confirmed by angels who knew that one day a tomb will be emptied forever. But Cain's punishment was severe. Marked and cursed, he wandered the earth. The apocryphal text suggests that he fathered a lineage of builders, men who crafted cities, weapons, and idols. They worshipped the stars. They distorted the truth. Through Cain's line came violence, arrogance, and the first corruption of the sacred bloodline. Adam, in his old age, would live to see generations rise from his seed. He would instruct them, warn them, and bless them. He would pass on the vision he had seen of a cross, of a crown, of redemption. But with every generation, the heart of man strayed further. One of the most disturbing revelations comes near the end of Adam's life. In a final vision, he saw the world submerged in water. He saw giants devouring men. He saw angels weeping. He saw a man named Noah, his descendant, building an ark while the world mocked him. And then silence. The flood came. But more terrifying still, Adam saw a time beyond the flood, a time when God's own people would betray him, when temples would become dens of thieves, when priests would kill prophets, when the Son of God would be nailed to wood, rejected by those he came to save. Adam fell to ground, crying, "All this because I ate the fruit?" But God, ever patient, responded, "All this because I love you too much to leave you lost." This is the mystery of the gospel, hidden in the earliest writings, that redemption is not an accident, that salvation is not plan B. From the moment Adam fell, the plan to raise him and all of humanity was already in motion. And as Adam took his final breath, surrounded by his children, he lifted his eyes to heaven and whispered, "I believe." His body was buried near the very mountain from which he had fallen after Eden. Tradition says that when Christ died, his blood ran down the cross, seeped through the earth, and touched the skull of Adam. Symbolic? Maybe. Or maybe it's all connected. We'll explore even more in the next chapter of this lost and sacred story. As centuries passed and the lineage of Adam spread across the earth, a subtle war was being waged in the unseen realm. The ancient manuscripts, particularly those found among the apocryphal scrolls, reveal that the children of men were not the only ones building kingdoms. The Watchers, angels once radiant with heavenly light, had begun to descend upon the earth, and their motives were anything but holy. According to the book of Enoch, which complements the lost writings of Adam and Eve, these celestial beings took human wives, and their union birthed monstrous offspring known as the Nephilim, giants, titans, beings with insatiable hunger and unquenchable wrath. These were not fairy tales. They were warnings buried in forbidden texts, forgotten by time and silenced by power. The children of Adam had grown bold. They no longer remembered Eden. They no longer feared God. They sought knowledge beyond their design, building altars to false gods, harnessing the dark arts taught by the fallen angels. metallurgy, enchantment, divination, all gifts that once belonged to the heavenly realm were now in the hands of mortals, and it corrupted them completely. In the midst of this rising storm, one man stood apart. His name was Enoch, the seventh from Adam. The lost books describe him as a scribe of righteousness, a man who walked so closely with God that he was eventually taken without tasting death. But before he vanished, Enoch was shown visions so terrifying that even the angels trembled to hear them. He saw the throne of God, burning like 1,000,000 suns, surrounded by wheels within wheels and beasts with eyes of fire. He saw the judgment that awaited the rebellious watchers, bound in chains beneath the mountains, screaming in agony as they awaited their final sentence. He saw the coming of the Son of Man, not as a meek lamb, but as a blazing judge with eyes like lightning and a voice like rushing waters. Enoch wrote it all down, and his writings, many of which mirror the themes found in the book of Revelation, were hidden for generations. Yet they speak of the same terrible secret revealed to Adam, that humanity would be tested, that suffering would be inevitable, that the bloodline of the righteous would be hunted, corrupted, and silenced. And yet, through all of it, a Savior would come. After Enoch was taken, his son Methuselah carried the message forward. He taught his children of the coming flood, of the judgment that would cleanse the world of Nephilim, and of the ark that his grandson Noah would one day build. The lost writings give vivid detail of Nephilim's terror upon hearing this prophecy. They knew their time was short. They raged across the earth, enslaving cities, building great towers, and even attempting to storm the heavens. One fragment of the lost book tells of a rebellion so great that it reached the very gates of Eden, now guarded by flaming swords. The Nephilim sought to reclaim what Adam had lost. But they were met not only by angelic resistance, but by the voice of God himself. The earth shook, the skies burned, and the giants fled in fear. As Noah began to build the ark, mocked by a world that had forgotten its creator, his heart was heavy. He had read the scrolls of Adam. He had wept over the visions of Enoch. He had seen firsthand the evil of man and the corruption of angelic seed. But still he obeyed. For 120 years he built. The apocryphal writings tell of beasts that watched him, of men who plotted to kill him, of fallen angels who tried to sabotage the ark. But God protected him. And when the rains came, they came not only from the skies, but from the deep. Fountains of the earth burst forth. Mountains were swallowed. Cities vanished. The Nephilim, towering and proud, were swept away by divine wrath. And for 40 days, the world was baptized in judgment. But the flood was not the end. After the waters receded, Noah's family stepped onto a cleansed earth. Yet the shadows of the past still lingered. One of Noah's sons, Ham, carried within him a rebellious seed, a thirst for forbidden. Through his lineage would come Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. Nimrod, who built Babel. Nimrod, who defied the heavens once more. The lost book says that Babel was more than just a tower. It was a gateway, a portal through which man sought to ascend and reclaim divinity. They remembered the old stories. They remembered the watchers, and they wanted their power back. But God descended. With a single breath, he scattered their tongues and shattered their unity. The tower fell, and with it, the illusion that man could ever reach heaven on his own. Centuries later, amidst the ruins of these civilizations, a man named Abraham was born, and through him, the promise made to Adam began to unfold once more. Abraham was not chosen for his strength, but for his faith. He listened when God spoke. He obeyed when God called. He believed when God said, "Through your seed, all nations shall be blessed." This seed, this thread woven from Eden, was still intact, protected, preserved, and pursued by the forces of darkness. In the hidden texts, Abraham is said to have encountered Melchizedek, a priest of God Most High, with no beginning or end. Some believe this was a pre-incarnate appearance of Christ himself. Others believe Melchizedek was a heavenly being sent to affirm the covenant. Either way, Abraham knew he was part of something eternal. And so the lineage continued, from Abraham to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob, from Jacob to Judah. Yet with each generation, the war intensified. In Egypt, the enemy tried to erase the chosen people through slavery. But God raised Moses, a man whose face shone with divine glory. Through plagues and parted seas, the children of Adam were reminded once again, you are not forgotten. But even as they entered the promised land, they brought with them the corruption of the old world. They built altars to Baal. They sacrificed their children to Molech. They betrayed the God who delivered them, and the prophets wept. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, they warned of judgment. They spoke of exile, but they also spoke of hope. A branch from the stump of Jesse, a child born of a virgin, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, the Messiah. And here, the lost book circles back to Adam. For in one ancient passage, believed to be a final revelation given before his death, Adam is shown a garden once more. Not Eden, but Gethsemane. He sees a man, sweating blood, praying beneath olive trees. He sees soldiers. He sees betrayal. He sees the cross. And then he understands. The tree of knowledge brought death, but the tree of crucifixion would bring life. The first Adam fell at the foot of a tree. The last Adam, Christ, would rise from the wood, victorious. Adam weeps, not in sorrow, but in joy. This is a terrible secret. That from the beginning, the plan was always love. Love that would bleed. Love that would die. Love that would rise. And now, dear viewer, you stand at the edge of this mystery. The scrolls have been opened. The truth has been revealed. What will you do with it? The story continued to unravel. Each page a revelation. Each verse a whisper from eternity. From Adam to Abraham. From the Exodus to the exile, one unbroken thread remained. The seed, the promise, the war. But the climax of this ancient battle was drawing near. The prophets had spoken. The signs had been given, and heaven held its breath. In a small town called Bethlehem, under the shadow of Roman oppression, a child was born. He was not adorned in gold or celebrated by kings. His cradle was a feeding trough. His attendants were shepherds. Yet the heavens themselves could not remain silent. A star appeared, brighter than all others, guiding seekers from the east. Angels sang in the skies. The long-awaited seed had come. Jesus. He was a fulfillment of Adam's vision, the echo of Eden in human flesh. The lost books hint at this child long before the Gospels were ever penned. In fragments buried in deserts and caves, the name Yeshua appears. Salvation, whisper across the centuries. The secret was never that he would come, but how he would win. Unlike the kings of old, Jesus would not take up a sword. He would not build empires. He would not summon angels to crush his enemies. Instead, he healed. He forgave. He wept. He loved. And that was the greatest threat darkness had ever faced. The apocryphal writings speak of realms unseen, where demonic forces gathered, baffled by this Messiah who did not match their prophecies. They remembered Enoch's visions. They remembered the promise to Eve, that her offspring would crush the serpent's head. And now, that moment was approaching. But the serpent was not idle. He slithered into the hearts of men. Herod, who tried to kill the child. Pharisees, who clung to power. Judas, who traded love for silver. The betrayal was ancient. The crucifixion foretold. And yet, the cross was not a defeat. The lost texts describe a scene beneath the earth, in the realm of the dead. As Christ breathed his last, the veil tore, not only in the temple but in the fabric between worlds. The earth quaked, tombs opened, and in the silence of death, a voice thundered, "Awake, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." Jesus descended into Sheol, the ancient prison of souls. The apocryphal Gospels and early Christian hymns echo this descent. He walked through darkness with authority, confronting the prince of death. The gates of hell shook, the keys were reclaimed, and he rose, not just as a man returned from the grave, but as the firstborn of a new creation, the second Adam. Where the first failed in the garden, the second triumphed in another, Gethsemane, where Adam chose disobedience. Christ chose surrender. The war was not over, but the outcome had been sealed. He appeared to many. He broke bread. He restored the fallen. And before ascending, he left a command, go, make disciples, teach them to obey everything I have commanded you. Asterisk. The early church was born in fire, not the fire of judgment, but the fire of the Holy Spirit. Flames danced upon their heads. Tongues were loosed. And once again, men spoke with divine breath. The Tower of Babel had scattered languages. Pentecost united them. Yet persecution followed. Rome burned, and the believers were blamed. They were thrown to lions, crucified, beheaded. But they sang. They forgave. They loved, and the scrolls spread. Among these were fragments of the writings of Adam, Enoch, and the apostles, passed hand to hand, heart to heart, despite threats and blood. The lost books were not lost to time, but to fear. Some claimed they were too dangerous. Others said they were false. But for those who read them, truly read them, a deeper truth emerged. This war is not against flesh and blood. It is spiritual, ancient, and every soul is a battleground. The final chapters of the Lost Book reveal visions yet to come, a time when knowledge will increase, when men will become lovers of self, when truth will be traded for pleasure, and even the elect will be deceived. And yet a remnant will remain. These few will walk in light, while surrounded by darkness. They will hold to the old paths. They will not bow to idols, nor sell their birthright for comfort. They will be mocked, hated, hunted, but they will overcome. For within them burns the same flame that guided Adam, the same voice that spoke to Moses, the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead. And to them, to you, the warning of the Lost Book is clear. Do not be deceived. The serpent still speaks. His tongue is sweet, but his bite is death. He will offer you Eden, but lead you to Sheol. He will promise wisdom, but deliver chains. Choose the narrow path. Follow the voice of the shepherd. The time is short. For one day, the skies will split. The trumpet will sound. And the Son of Man will return, not in silence, but in power. And every secret will be revealed. In a world where ancient manuscripts whisper truths long buried, a discovery has shaken the spiritual realm to its core. Hidden beneath layers of dust, silence, and time, the lost book of Adam and Eve has emerged, revealing secrets that tremble the soul and pierce the veil of what we thought we knew. As we reach the final part of this journey, we invite you to breathe deeply and open your heart. What you're about to hear will stay with you forever. Before we continue, if this series has touched you, challenged you, or awakened a curiosity inside your spirit, please consider subscribing to our channel Daily Reflection. Like, comment, and share this video with someone who longs for deeper truth. Let the light spread, and may your heart be filled with divine understanding. Now let us return to the story. The final echoes of Adam and Eve's exodus from Eden did not fade into mere myth or metaphor. According to the ancient lost texts, the couple journeyed eastward, their bodies weighed down not only by mortal flesh, but by the unbearable burden of knowledge. Truths too profound, too terrifying for the unprepared. They encountered the world as it truly was. Untamed, hostile, yet filled with signs from the Creator. Trees spoke through their rustling leaves. Rivers carried warnings in their flow. Even the stars above shimmered in strange patterns, guiding them to hidden places. The book reveals that Adam, in his despair, once attempted to throw himself into the sea, pleading with God to return him to the bliss of Eden. But a voice came from the heavens, not thunderous, but gentle and firm, saying, "Your journey is not punishment, it is preparation." These words echo through eternity, reminding humanity that suffering, when aligned with divine purpose, becomes sanctified. Eve, too, bore her own cross of agony. She wandered into a desert cave, lamenting over the future of her offspring. The ground beneath her wept blood, and a vision overtook her, a tree with 7 twisted branches, each one bearing a symbol of pain and redemption. From these branches, the book says, came a prophecy. A child would be born of her line who would crush the serpent's head, but suffer death in doing so. And she knew this meant salvation would come through sacrifice. As centuries passed, the lost records describe Adam and Eve building a place of worship from stones and bones, a humble altar in the wilderness. From this altar rose the first incense of repentance. The smoke spiraled into the heavens, attracting the gaze of angels and demons alike. Heaven wept, hell stirred. For this was not just an act of sorrow, but of sacred defiance. fallen beings choosing, in their brokenness, to still reach toward the divine. Now, the book of Adam and Eve transitioned from narrative to revelation. It speaks of realms unseen by the living. It tells of the Watchers, those fallen angels mentioned in other apocryphal texts like the book of Enoch, who descended upon the earth and taught forbidden knowledge to mankind. And it warns that this knowledge, once unleashed, would not be undone until the end of days. One of the most haunting passages describes a vision given Adam in his final days. He saw a ladder of fire stretching from earth to heaven. Upon this ladder, souls ascended, while others fell in flames. At the top stood a figure shining brighter than the sun, pierced to the hands and feet, and yet alive. Adam asked, "Who is this?" And the angel replied, "This is the one who will restore what was lost in the garden." The narrative concludes not with closure, but with commission. It urges the reader to guard their heart, to seek wisdom, and to prepare. The final verse reads, "From Eden you were cast, but Eden is not destroyed. It awaits." This powerful message reminds us that though we walk in a fallen world, the garden of communion with God is not gone forever. It awaits the faithful, the repentant, the seekers. And perhaps, through the blood of the promised one, the gates will open once more. Thank you for journeying with us through this revelation. If your spirit has been stirred, if your mind has been awakened, or if your heart now yearns for the sacred truths that echo through time, do not walk away unchanged. Subscribe to Daily Reflection, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this with those you love. This is more than a story. It is a call to remember, a call to awaken. Until the next revelation, may peace be upon you.